At 3:34 in the morning on the 25th of June 2026, a security camera inside the entrance of a condominium building on Jom Tien Second Road in Pattaya captured two people walking toward the elevator: a teenage girl in jeans and white trainers, a taller man in shorts and a black sleeveless shirt. They were holding hands. She was 17 years old. It was her first time in Pattaya. She had been in the city for 9 days. She was never seen leaving that building alive. 18 hours later, the same man was filmed walking out of the building alone, pulling a large black hard-shell suitcase behind him. He loaded it onto the back of a motorcycle. He rode in the direction of a nearby railway line. The camera lost him for 9 minutes. When it picked him up again, he was heading back toward the condominium, without the suitcase. The following morning, a friend who had been unable to reach the girl for over 24 hours walked into Pattaya City Police Station and reported her missing. Officers pulled the CCTV footage. Within hours, they had a name. Within hours after that, they had a warrant. And at 1:15 in the early morning of the 27th of June, 44 hours after that camera captured a teenage girl walking hand in hand into a building she would never leave, police officers at Bangkok's Suvarnabhumi airport stopped a man who was standing in line to board a flight to Perth, Australia. On his neck and arms were scratch marks consistent with a struggle. In his possession was the victim's mobile phone. He told the officers the scratch marks were from a spider. This is the story of Tunchanok Donhomla, known to everyone who loved her as Nong Cake, and the 44 hours that changed everything. Tunchanok Donhomla was 17 years old. She came from Kalasin, a province in the northeast of Thailand, a region known for its tight-knit rural communities and a long tradition of families supporting one another through difficult times. She was an only child. Those who knew her called her Nong Cake, a nickname that had followed her since childhood and that suited her in the way that the right nicknames always do. Her father, Thongchai Donhomla, described her as an independent girl who always tried to help the family. During festivals and local markets, she would set up a small stall to sell items, contributing what she could to the household income. She maintained daily contact with her family while away from home. Those calls and messages were, for her parents, a reassurance that she was safe. Her stepmother, Oradi, spoke to reporters after her death with a grief that was direct and unguarded. She said the family had allowed Cake to travel to Pattaya because she had always been responsible and had never given them cause for concern. She had never had problems with substances. She had a friend in Pattaya she was going to visit. For parents in Kalasin, that was enough. The trip to Pattaya was the first time Cake had been to the city. She arrived 9 days before her death. By every account available, she had been making her way in an unfamiliar environment, staying in contact with home, learning how this new place worked. Those who spoke to reporters after her death painted a picture of a girl who was trying to help her family, navigating circumstances that were far more complicated than her 17 years had prepared her for. The city she had come to for the first time was one of the most visited tourist destinations in Southeast Asia, a place where the gap between its public image and the realities beneath it can be difficult for newcomers to read. Cake was reading it as best she could. She did not have enough time. Simon Peter Carman was 46 years old. He was Australian, originally from Ballarat in the state of Victoria, though he had spent significant time in Western Australia, including Perth's southern suburbs. Before his move to Thailand, he had worked as a long-haul truck driver and as a mechanic and handyman. At some point during those working years, he had sustained serious physical injuries, including damage to his back and neck that was reported to involve surgical intervention. Those injuries had ended his working life. By the time he arrived in Thailand, he was living on a disability pension and workers' compensation payments. He had been renting a condominium in the Jomtien beach area of Pattaya for approximately 1 year. To anyone looking at the surface of his life there, he was one of many middle-aged Western men who had settled in the city, drawn by the warm climate, the low cost of living, and the ease with which a modest income from abroad could sustain a comfortable existence. He was not known to Thai police before the night of the 25th of June. He had access to a motorcycle, a rented condominium, and significant time with nothing fixed to fill it. The night of the 25th of June was not, in the context of his life in Pattaya, an unusual one until it became something no one could take back. To understand what happened in the early hours of the 25th of June, it is necessary to understand the environment in which the encounter between Carman and Tunchanok took place. Pattaya is one of Thailand's most internationally recognizable cities. Its beaches attract millions of visitors each year. Its nightlife economy is among the largest in Southeast Asia, and within that economy, transactions between foreign visitors and young Thai women are a visible and well-documented feature of certain areas of the city, particularly along Beach Road and in the cluster of bars and open-air venues known locally to foreign visitors. Investigators believe Carman encountered Tunchanok in the Jomtien beach area in the early hours of Thursday morning. Police Colonel Anek Srathong Yu, superintendent of Pattaya City Police Station, told reporters that the two individuals had agreed on the terms of a financial exchange before going to his condominium together. The agreed amount, according to police, was 1,000 baht. At current exchange rates, that is approximately 23 British pounds, or roughly $30. That number matters because it is the thread that connects what came before to what came after. Police say that once they were inside Carman's apartment, he offered 500 baht instead of the agreed 1,000. An argument followed. That argument, in the account given by investigators, was the point at which the situation became fatal. A teenage girl, in a city she had arrived in 9 days earlier, in a private apartment belonging to a man she had met hours before, arguing over an amount of money equivalent to about $12. What happened in the minutes that followed is what this case is about. The condominium where Carman was renting was on Jomtien 2nd Road. Security cameras at the building's entrance recorded Tunchanok walking in with Carman at 3:34 in the morning. She was wearing white Onitsuka trainers, jeans, and a top. The footage shows them entering the elevator together. That is the last recorded image of her alive. Inside the apartment, the dispute over payment escalated into a physical confrontation. In his account to investigators, Carman said that Tunchanok had attacked him with a knife during the argument, and that he had grabbed her neck with one hand while attempting to take the weapon with the other. He described what followed as self-defense. Police Colonel Srathong Yu, who oversaw the investigation, told reporters that while the suspect had the right to claim self-defense, the physical evidence in the apartment was not consistent with a simple defensive struggle. Carman later told investigators, in a statement that police released, that he had strangled Tunchanok until she was motionless, then moved her body to the bathroom. He said he did not know what to do. What he did was wait. The body of Tunchanok Donhomla remained inside the apartment for approximately 18 hours. During that period, Carman was recorded by the building's cameras going out alone during the day, apparently to collect food, and returning. He went about the hours between the early morning of the 25th and the evening of the same day as a man with something to manage and time to think about how to manage it. By that evening, he had a plan. CCTV cameras outside the building recorded him emerging with a large black hard-shell suitcase, 26 inches, loaded onto the back of his motorcycle. He rode in the direction of Sukhumvit Road, turned onto Chaya Phraya Soi 2, and followed the road alongside a railway line. For 9 minutes, he dropped out of camera coverage entirely. When the cameras picked him up again, he was on his way back to the condominium. The suitcase was gone. He had left it in a patch of thick grass, approximately 4.2 kilometers from the building. Inside it, investigators would later find the body of Tunchanok Donhomla. Her white trainers were there, her jeans, her underwear, her phone case, her wallet, her gold bracelet and necklace. She had been strangled. Her face showed severe bruising. The medical examiner confirmed she had died from asphyxiation. Carman returned to the condominium, cleaned the room, and began making arrangements to leave the country. He had a flight to Perth, Australia, booked for the early hours of the 27th of June. The investigation that followed moved with a speed that became one of the defining features of this case and a source of significant international attention. On the afternoon of Friday the 26th of June, a friend of Tunchanok, who had been unable to reach her for more than 24 hours, walked into Pattaya City Police Station. She reported Tunchanok missing, described the circumstances of the last evening she had seen her, and gave officers what information she had. What happened next was a systematic review of the security camera network across the Jomtien area. Officers identified the footage of Tunchanok entering the condominium at 3:34 on Thursday morning. They identified the footage of Carman leaving with the suitcase that evening. They tracked his route along Chaya Phraya Soi 2 toward the railway line. They noted the 9-minute gap in camera coverage. Within hours of reviewing that footage, Pattaya police had flagged Carman to immigration authorities. Officers at Suvarnabhumi Airport in Bangkok were alerted. An arrest warrant was issued. At 1:15 in the early morning of Saturday the 27th of June, officers at Suvarnabhumi intercepted Simon Peter Carman as he stood in line to board a flight to Perth. He had his luggage. He had his passport. He had Tunchanok's mobile phone in his possession. He also had visible scratch marks across his neck and arms, which officers noted were consistent with a defensive struggle. When asked about the marks, Carman told them they were from a spider. At 1:30 in the morning, 15 minutes after Carman was detained at the airport, investigators following the route documented on CCTV reached the area near the railway line on Chaya Phraya Soi 2. In the thick grass beside the tracks, they found a black hard-shell suitcase. Inside it was the body of Tunchanok Donhomla. When police searched Carman's condominium, they found signs of a struggle. The physical condition of the room, combined with the forensic evidence from the suitcase and the body, formed the basis of the charges filed against him at Pattaya Provincial Court. He faces charges of murder, concealing a body, moving and destroying a body, and taking a minor for an indecent purpose. He has denied the murder charge and claimed self-defense. He has not been granted bail, and investigators have indicated the case may take considerable time to proceed through the Thai court system. The 44 hours between Tunchanok walking into that building and Carman being stopped at the airport represented, by any measure, a remarkably compressed and effective investigation. Psychological analysis. What the evidence in this case reveals, when examined carefully, is a pattern of thinking that did not begin in the moment the argument broke out over payment. It began much earlier, and understanding that pattern is essential to understanding not just what Carman did, but how a man ends up in a position where what he did becomes thinkable. The first element is the environment Carman had constructed for himself in Pattaya. He was living alone on a fixed income from abroad, in a city where that income provided a lifestyle unavailable to him in Australia. He had no employment, no structured social obligations, and significant daily discretionary time. The pattern of social media behaviour documented by Australian media, the repetitive, formulaic attempts to contact women across multiple platforms over many months, reveals a man who had organised a significant portion of his daily life around the pursuit of transactional contact with women, and who had done so in a way that was both systematic and impersonal. The women he contacted online were, in the record that survives, largely interchangeable in his approach to them. The second element is what the dispute itself reveals. The argument was over approximately $12. That figure is important not because the amount is trivial, but because of what it tells us about the attitude that preceded the encounter. A man who enters a negotiated arrangement and then unilaterally reduces the agreed payment by half is not confused about what was agreed. He is choosing not to honor it. That choice, in the context of a power imbalance between a 46-year-old man in his own apartment and a 17-year-old girl in an unfamiliar city, carries a specific meaning. It is an assertion of control. The third element is the 18 hours that followed. The decision to wait rather than call for help, to spend the day going out for food and returning, to spend the evening loading a body into a suitcase and riding to a railway line, to then clean the room and book a flight home, reflects a capacity to manage extreme circumstances with practical deliberateness. There was no evidence of panic visible in the CCTV record. There was movement, planning, execution. These are not the actions of someone overwhelmed by what they had done. They are the actions of someone who had decided that what mattered most was their own escape. The scratch marks on Carman's neck and arms, which he attributed to a spider, were assessed by police as consistent with a person defending themselves. If that assessment is accurate, then in the final moments of her life, Tunchanok Donhomla was fighting back. She was 17 years old, in someone else's apartment, in a city she had arrived in 9 days earlier, and she fought back. The case of Tunchanok Donhomla did not occur in a vacuum, and examining it only as an isolated incident would miss something important about the context in which it happened. Pattaya's economy is, in part, built on the movement of money from foreign visitors to local people operating in the city's extensive nightlife industry. That industry is large, visible, and tolerated by authorities within limits that are frequently contested and inconsistently applied. For young women from provinces like Kalaseen, where economic opportunities are limited and family financial pressure is real, Pattaya represents a place where income can be earned in ways not available at home. The city draws them in significant numbers. It offers financial possibility. It also offers risk in the specific form of encounters with strangers in private spaces where there is no oversight and no protection. This case drew renewed attention to that risk and to the question of what responsibility sits where when something goes wrong inside a private apartment between a foreign visitor and a young Thai woman. Police Colonel Srathong Yu addressed this directly in interviews with international media. He acknowledged that protecting people in private spaces is difficult, and he encouraged business owners and condominium operators to report anything suspicious as early as possible. He also said, notably, that incidents like this one do not reflect the overall safety of Thailand, and that both foreign wrongdoers and foreign victims could expect justice to be pursued with equal commitment. The case also drew attention from a different direction. Chiang Rai Times and other regional media reported that investigators were reviewing whether Carman could be linked to 2 other unsolved cases in the coastal area, in which young women in similar circumstances had also been found in suitcases. Police Superintendent Srathong Yu stated that there was no direct evidence linking Carman to those cases at the time of the reports, but that the similarities had prompted a deeper review. Investigators from different districts were collaborating to examine whether the pattern of circumstances aligned with Carman's documented movements in Thailand. None of that had been resolved publicly at the time of writing. What had been resolved was that a 44-hour investigation had stopped a man at an airport with the evidence still on him, and that Tunchanok's family, who had driven hours from Kalasin to Bangkok to collect their daughter's body, would at least know what had happened to her. That is not justice. It is only the beginning of the process that, under Thai law, may take years to reach its conclusion. In the days after Carman's arrest, he was brought before cameras in an investigation room at the police station. He addressed Tunchanok's family directly. He said he felt bad for what had happened to their daughter. He said it was out of his control. He said it should not have happened. He told them to please tell other girls to be careful. Tunchanok's family rejected the statement entirely. Her stepmother, Oradi, told reporters, "I told the police I want him executed. As a stepmother, I don't know what else to say. I just want him executed." Her father, Thongchai, said his daughter was an independent girl who had always tried to help the family. He spoke of a daughter who sold things at roadside stalls during festivals, who called home every day, who had earned the trust that allowed her to make this trip. There is a particular kind of grief in what Thongchai described, the grief of parents who trusted their child because she had earned that trust, and who will spend the rest of their lives knowing that the trust was not the problem. The world she walked into was. Simon Peter Carman remains in custody in Thailand. He has been charged with murder, concealing a body, moving and destroying a body, and taking a minor for an indecent purpose. He has denied the murder charge. Under Thai law, the investigation period can extend to 84 days initially, and considerably longer if the case is contested. Given Carman's denial of the principal charge, the case may take years to reach a final verdict. The maximum penalty for murder under Thai criminal law is death by lethal injection, though capital punishment is rarely carried out in practice. Australia's Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade confirmed it was providing consular assistance to an Australian national detained in Thailand and declined to comment further. Tunchanok Donhomla was 17 years old. She came from a province in northeastern Thailand where family meant daily phone calls and showing up to help at festivals. She arrived in Pattaya for the first time 9 days before she died. She sent a message to a friend on the night she met Carman, mentioning the state of the room they had gone to. That message, ordinary and brief, was among her last. The security camera at the entrance of that condominium building on Jomtien's Second Road captured her walking in, holding the hand of a man she had met a short time before. It is the last footage of her alive. She never walked back out. If this case has raised questions for you about the safety of young people in tourist environments, or about how to support organizations working on these issues in Southeast Asia, links to relevant resources are in the description below. If you found this video valuable, please subscribe and share it. As this case is still ongoing, we will bring you the latest developments as soon as they come. And as always, thank you sincerely for watching and for being part of this community. It means more than you know.